It's Sunday, December 6th, 2015, and it's December, so that means that the Seahawks are finally winning the ways that we thought they should have been winning in September. So they do that today, beating the Vikings 38-7. Did I forget, or was I right? Yeah, 38-7.
Sounds right.
With Russell Wilson scoring 4 more touchdowns, Thomas Rawls rushing for 100 yards again, Doug Baldwin scoring 2 more touchdowns, holding the Minnesota Vikings to 0 points on offense, basically keeping everything in check against a team that's ahead of them still in the playoff race, but quickly starting to perhaps fade in a similar way to the Atlanta Falcons, who also lost today, giving the Seahawks not just a tie-breaking lead in the wild card, but an actual 1-game lead in the wild card race with 4 games left to go. This is Real in the Field Goals Instant Reaction Show with Kenneth Arthur and Danny Kelly. Danny, what's your instant reaction?
The instant reaction is that was a great win for the Seahawks. Obviously, the defense completely dominated. No, as you said, no touchdown. The defense didn't give up any touchdowns. They did give up the 101-yard kickoff return to Cordarrelle Patterson, but you have to be really, really happy with the way the defense played. Adrian Peterson only had 18 rushing yards, which is his 3rd lowest career total, which is huge. We talked about going into the game that it looked like a good matchup because the Seahawks are kind of built to stop that kind of attack. And that, I think that was an understatement. The Seahawks really, really just came out and dominated on defense. And then you have to be stoked about the offense too. Russell Wilson's balling out. You, I think, had the tweet earlier of his stats over his last 3 games. We should talk about that at some point because I think he has 11 touchdowns the last 3 or 4 games. He's just completely gone off lately.
Yeah, I mean, he
looks really, really in rhythm. So, yeah, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, every single game, the last 3 games, he's been almost perfect. Completion percentage north of 75%. A lot of those non-catches are throwaways or dropped passes. Yep. I'm sure that his real accuracy is probably closer to 90% over the last 3 games. 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yeah, it's he's playing. So the question that I want to ask then, on that note, really the one thing that I was coming into this with this on my mind was Russell Wilson. He's got to be in the MVP conversation, don't you think?
Yeah, that would be really interesting because he didn't have a very strong beginning of the year. So I think, but the recency thing probably does come into effect, and the way he's playing now, I think, especially over the last month or so, at least 3 games, there's no one playing better than him at quarterback right now. So, yeah, I don't know if he probably won't be in the MVP race. I don't think, just realistically. But
I mean, I don't know, because I'm thinking Aaron Rodgers is not having the type of season that he normally has. So Aaron Rodgers, his name's not going to come up as often. J.J. Watt, are they going to accept a defensive player on a 6-6 team right now as an MVP? I don't know who's necessary. What the players, obviously, is Andy Dalton going to be it? Carson Palmer? I mean, it's very unusual, the names showing up. And you look at Russell Wilson's consistency. He's in 12 games. He's had 11 games with a passer rating of at least 81. He's only had 1 game under that. That was against the Cardinals. He had a passer rating of 67.2. In 5 games, he's had a passer rating over 100. Over the last 3 games, he has a passer rating close to 148. I mean, his passer rating on the season now is 106.2.
Wow.
With 4 games left to go. He's got more touchdown passes than he had last season. I mean,
I saw that. That's huge. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's really, his yards per attempt over the last, his yards per attempt is 8.5. His touchdown percentage is 5.9%, which is higher than he had last. It's close to his career high of 6.6, which was his rookie year. But he's throwing more passes now. Obviously, he had 393 pass attempts as a rookie. He's already got 352 or something like that this year. So, he's more volume. And you look at a guy like Tyrod Taylor, who also has a pass rating of about 106, but that's a very much more contained offense. It doesn't really center around Tyrod Taylor so much as Tyrod Taylor is. They're putting those guys in prime position to make those catches, high percentage passes. And don't you think, like, with the way we also saw he get his first rushing touchdown today, and the way that he was sort of elusively running out there, and without Jimmy Graham, he sort of is running the show?
Yeah, it's Russell Wilson's offense now, and with the way that Thomas Rawls is running and with the way that Doug Baldwin has been playing at receiver, I think that's just really big. And then the other thing that we hadn't mentioned yet is Tyler Lockett looked really, really good in the offense this week. He actually caught all 7 of his targets for 90 dangerous on those screen plays that everyone hates. Yeah, some of those have actually been pretty darn effective lately. And he also had a big return, which of course didn't really matter because Rawls fumbled it. But he's come on as another kind of late emerger, and the way the Seahawks are playing with some of those rookies is really encouraging.
Yeah,
the other guy that Frank Clark. I was gonna say the other guy that was really impressive in this game was Frank Clark, and he showed up. I mean, I don't know what his final stat line will be. I could look it up, but he just seemed to be getting
2 passes defense, 3 QB hits.
Wow, there you go. That is huge. And you know who else looks pretty good up there is Bruce Irvin. So they're starting to get some real good production from people that you kind of weren't seeing earlier on in the year. And so, I mean, that's probably part of the reason that they're playing so well lately.
When KJ Wright was snuffing out those screen passes again, you really looking around it and saying that if these guys, obviously Earl Thomas with an interception.
Yep, that's big.
I think that, there are going to be, again, it's starting to look, and again, like if you look at 2012, 2014, you could take those. They were 6-5 in just as they were today back in 2012, and then go on that huge run. It sort of feels like that. They were 4-4 last year. And now it's, when they were 2-4, we were kind of like, is there something wrong? Is it because the Cam Chancellor was gone for so long? But, right now, and you look at their schedule, they pull out this win, and with the Falcons losing to the Bucs, they get that 1 game lead in the wild card. But now look at their schedule now. They go to the Baltimore Ravens. They get the Cleveland Browns, the worst team in the NFL, at home. They get the St. Louis Rams at home, and then they go to Arizona. And it's possible that Arizona, if they have a seed locked up at that point, and Seattle, maybe they need one more win, because the difference between the 5 seed and the 6 seed this year is pretty monumental. The difference between going to maybe Green Bay or going to Washington. So,
right.
That's going to be a big one. Yeah. And do you think that we were the reason that Frank Clark finally stepped up this week?
I think so, yeah. He probably, printout of the transcript of our podcast on his locker room wall and decided to, show us what's up. I'm glad that I kind of posited that it wasn't necessarily that he was a disappointment. Just that he hasn't played as much as I thought. And for some reason, again, it's like I'm still kind of questioning, why has he not been in there more? I guess it's probably something like injuries, and they really wanted to lean on Averill and Bennett. But man, when they have Irvin, Clark, Averill, and Bennett out there on the line, that is freaking sweet. And then, because all those guys can win one-on-one, and they can do some cool things with Irvin because he's so fast, like in terms of, stunts and things like that. So I don't know. It's getting exciting. It's funny because that, like, that feeling that we were having last year when the Seahawks went on the run, and then the year before and the late part of the season, it's kind of like coming back. It's been a roller coaster year, just because they haven't looked like themselves at all. But I think definitely over the last 3 games, it kind of feels like they're putting it all together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even really think that last season, they had like a couple at the end. They beat the Cardinals 35-6. They beat the Rams 20-6 in Week 17. But it really feels like it hasn't really been since 2013 that they were really getting really easy blowout wins, and this was their first of the season. And they've beat back-to-back playoff teams right now. The Steelers looking like a playoff team when they beat them, and then the Vikings. So like those early season losses to teams that are headed to the playoffs, like the Panthers and the Bengals, it really does show, I think, that Seattle is, we wanted to see some wins like this, and they've delivered. Times when we were a little bit frightful, like could they beat the Steelers with the way they were playing? Could they beat the Vikings on the road at 10 a.m. and all that kind of stuff? And it just sort of went away. And when they go out there and they play the football that they want to play, it definitely works out. And another big game for Thomas Rawls, his 4th 100-yard game of the season, which is he's only one of like 5 Seahawks in history to have at least 400-yard games in a season, which is nuts because he's only had
That's
6
weird.
starts.
That is weird.
Yeah, I mean, then that's the other thing. We'll see if Russell Wilson's in the MVP conversation, but can Thomas Rawls make a late push for the Rookie of the Year conversation? Because he's playing on a playoff team.
Yeah, who does he have? Who is his main competition for that? Do you think? Like,
well, you got Amari Cooper.
Yeah. Gurley looked like the kind of guy who would get that, but now he's really fallen off in terms of his run.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're just looking at it as from a pure number standpoint, I'm pretty sure that he has more rushing yards than Gurley now.
And then obviously
Gurley has had more opportunities.
Yeah, but then you got Mariota and Winston, who are both having strong years, so it's probably going to be tough to beat those guys.
Yeah, it'll probably be tough to beat a quarterback that's not doing so bad. Marcus Mariota with like a 93-yard rushing touchdown today, if you saw that one.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I was actually looking up some stats about that. There's like that's the 3rd longest run by a quarterback, I think, in NFL history.
Wow.
Touchdown run. And then if it kind of puts it into perspective, there's only been two running backs in history that have had more than one 90-yard rushing touchdown. That'd be Bo Jackson and Amon Green, randomly enough.
Oh, wow.
So those are rare. 90-yard rushing touchdowns are extremely rare. So,
right.
Anyways, kind of interesting. Yeah.
Didn't Terrell Pryor have one?
Yeah, Terrell Pryor has the record. His was 93 yards. I want to say Kaepernick's was second. He had like a 91-yarder.
Blaine Gabbert.
What was Mariota's?
Run.
He did. What was Mariota's run today? Was it 90?
It was 87.
87. Oh, yeah. Kaepernick had a 90-yard TD run last year. Mariota's was 87 today, and Terrell Pryor was 93 against the Raiders. For the Raiders in 2013.
Yeah, the Titans, they pull out a win, and the draft order is getting really interesting every single week because now the Browns stand alone at 2-10 because the Titans won and the 49ers won, so they moved to 4-8 actually. It's hard to predict a lot of where these middling games are going to end up. You've got good teams, playing good teams, and bad teams playing bad teams, but then I would have been shocked if you would have told me that San Francisco would win 4 games this season at one point, the way they were playing and sort of dismantling themselves. But Blaine Gabbert, he doesn't look that bad, does he?
No, he actually looks kind of decent. And I mean, if you remember, he was a first-round pick. So he has some physical tools, and I think when he was playing early on, he was just way out of his league in terms of development. And it looks like the years as a backup have really paid off for him because I think he's kind of starting to be a relatively decent quarterback, which is weird. But I wouldn't say that he's necessarily going to be like their franchise quarterback, but he's definitely been a lot better than I thought he would be.
Yep. And then finally the Cardinals win, so they maintain their lead in the NFC West. Really, the Seahawks, as I wrote this week, they need to somehow close. Now they need to close the gap by 2 games over the next 3 games. I think the Seahawks should have no problem winning all 3 of those games. It's just a matter of whether or not the Cardinals can find a way to lose 2, which is going to be the Minnesota Vikings at home next week, at the Philadelphia Eagles, and then hosting the Green Bay Packers. So you never know. It was
Packers could beat them, I suppose.
Yeah, the Packers looked like shit on Thursday, though.
Yeah, but they did win.
They did win somehow.
There's weird shit happens in the NFL. Well, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and that's why we don't want to get too cocky already about, they still have to travel to Baltimore across the country, play Matt Schaub, who has won some games in his career.
There's a chance it could be Clausen. Schaub got hurt today. I don't know how serious it is. It might not be very serious because I believe he came in later in the game, but there's a small chance the Seahawks could play Jimmy Clausen again for a different team I don't know how rare that is, but it seems probably pretty rare.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That would be pretty fucking amazing if the Seahawks got to play Jimmy Clausen twice.
It would be so awesome.
I am praying for that now. Not even just like for an advantage. I just want that to happen for anyone.
Right. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna Google Schaub here while you're talking to see if I can figure out how hurt he is. But
Well, it
go
looks like
ahead.
he threw all the passes today, so I didn't see any Jimmy Clausen attempts.
The good news is Schaub threw another pick six today.
Wow.
He has 7 since 2013.
That's another insane stat. I mean, for anyone to do that, I mean, Russell Wilson has thrown 1 in his career.
Right.
And he stopped that one against Greg Hardy that saved the
So
game.
it's like, maybe we actually want Schaub. I don't know.
Maybe. I'll take anything, at this point. But the Seahawks, again, it should be it'll be pretty surprising if they don't win their next 2 games, get to 9-5 with the Rams and the Cardinals left to go. Anything could happen. The other thing is they've got 2 more AFC games. So a lot of the other NFC teams fighting for spots will be playing their conference games, and Seattle's 6-4 in the conference now, which is decent, and other teams could struggle to get those. So they get a 1-game lead for the second wild card. They're 1 game back now of the Minnesota Vikings for the first wild card, which they're going to really want. As I said, the Minnesota Vikings play at Arizona next week. So, there's really 2 ways it could go. As long as the Seahawks beat Baltimore, if the Cardinals win, then Minnesota loses and Seattle moves up to the 5 seed. If Minnesota wins, then the Cardinals drop a game and Seattle improves by 1 game in the NFC West standings. So anything, either one of those possibilities still seems favorable. And you probably Minnesota then host Chicago, host the Giants, who lost today, and then go to Green Bay. So I think that at the very least, I believe that Seattle will get the 5 seed, but we'll see. I did predict a 42-0 final score, to which I was laughed at. And it almost happened.
Awesome. That's hilarious. We definitely need to make a point of pointing that out at the site regularly this week.
Yeah, thank you.
That was a good call on your part.
Credit for that, because a lot of people, Minnesota fans, I get it. Vikings fans didn't like what I said about I don't have any respect for the team, so teach me how to respect them. I don't think that they're going to be saying as much to me today. I did not think the Vikings were as good as an 8-3 record. They are now 8-4. Mm-hmm. Just like I did not think the Falcons were as good as a 6-0, 5-0 record. But then again, I didn't know the Chiefs were not, better than a 1-5 record to that extent. So anything, records are records. But I want to know how good you are at the end of the day. And right now, at the end of the day, the Seahawks to me look like a team that the Carolina Panthers aren't going to want to face in the playoffs. The Cardinals aren't going to want to face in the playoffs. This is going to be the team that is really going to perhaps pull off some devastation in the playoffs. Any final thoughts, Danny?
I don't know. My main thing is Carroll has talked about how they always kind of engineer their teams to play well at the end of the year. And I'm just curious how they do that. I wish that he would actually tell us the steps in doing it. I'm not sure he actually really knows, but it's almost like they manufacture drama at the beginning of the year so they can overcome it and be all on the same page at the end of the year. Because it's just such a common theme for the Seahawks, but it does certainly, and it even goes back to the Trojans. At USC, they were always really, really strong in the second half of the year. And so, I don't know. It's just kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, I wish they had manufactured a win over the Cardinals. Then they're, because at this point, they don't have any shot at getting the 1 seed. That's already out of the way. I mean, they're not going to.
They weren't going to get that. But
the 2 seed not going to happen either. A home game is looking less and less likely. But then again, they went on the road today and they did just fine. I don't think it's necessarily the road that's going to do them in. They've beaten the Panthers and Carolina many times. It's just going to be a matter of. Maybe the Panthers are just better than the Seahawks this season. Who knows? So we'll see what happens.
Well, they get to the playoffs, anything can happen. You're going to have to beat some good teams in the playoffs anyway. So
for sure.
Just get to the playoffs and anything can happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they hadn't been showing as much at home this season anyway. So, wild cards win the Super Bowl all the time, and the Seahawks just need to get one of those wild card spots. And with the Ravens and Browns on deck, I mean, really facing Schaub or Clausen, and then Davis or Manziel, and then, Foles or Keenum. It's pretty much, I think every other NFC team is thinking the Seahawks are going to be 10-5 headed into the final week. So that should, I don't know what their playoff odds are now, but I'm sure it's getting pretty close to 80% or something like that. Looking good.
Yeah. And we talked about this before the game. There was a huge swing in terms of playoff odds. I don't like playoff odds very much, to be honest. I just don't really pay close attention to them because for some reason in my brain, I just can't really digest what odd in the abstract form until there's 3 or 4 games left or 2 games left where it's you literally have certain whatever. You have to win this game or that game. But right now,
yeah. The Chiefs had 3% playoff odds at one point.
Yeah, exactly. So I just don't odds just don't really hit with me very much. But apparently this was a huge swing in terms of the odds of them getting into the playoffs. So that's good, even though I don't really care that much about odds.
Yeah. Field goals reader and listener Mina Kimes wanted me to mention, that T-Jack was in the game and he went 0 for 1. And that BJ Daniels had a catch for 6 yards. And this game got to the point where, I live in LA, so I got the feed and I was like, oh, great. They're playing it because the Seahawks are on TV a lot more often now as the game to watch. But yeah, they flipped it in the middle of the third quarter to the 49ers and Bears, which that's the point that it got. And I'm like, damn it. I don't care. I don't want that. But not a lot else happened other than the TJ appearance. So. Oh, and the Cordell Patterson touchdown, which sucks that they didn't get the shutout, but they do. The defense still kind of gets a shutout.
Yeah. Would have been really nice to get that shutout, though. Love shutouts. Would have been
sweet. And the Seahawks are 5th in point differential now. A couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, before playing the 49ers, for the second time, they were almost evens on points. They were about I think around +2 or something like that, and now they're +76. So. There's only a few teams.
Turnover ratio sits?
Well, what was the turnover ratio today? 1-0?
They had the pick, and then they had the fumble, so 0-0, I guess. Or 0, even.
Oh, right, because they fumbled it away. Yeah, so their turnover differential is... Well, this is great podcasting because now I can't find it.
Whatever. We'll write about it.
Yeah. Their turnover differential is decent. They've forced 4 last week.
I think it has been good. Yeah.
Yeah. Over the last 4 games, again, they've won 5 of their last 6. And in that time, they've only turned it over 5 times in 6 games with 8 turnovers forced. So decent. But yeah, it was a good win. Real in the film goals. I did see a movie called Sleeping with Other People with Jason Sudeikis and Allison Brie, and I recommend it.
Yeah. I think that looks really good.
We're hitting that season where there's a lot of good movies coming out in the theaters too, and there's going to be a lot of action on Real in the Film goals to come. So keep that in mind once The Hateful Eight and The Revenant and all those movies come out. Good win for the Seahawks. They improved to 7-5. 1 game lead in the second wild card, 1 game behind the first wild card, 2 games behind the Cardinals in the NFC West. Go to fieldgoals.com for all the post-game coverage. I have an article up on sportsonearth.com for the game. I'll have another article up tomorrow. I'll have an article up on rollingstone.com tomorrow about the Seahawks. And follow on Twitter, Field Goals, and follow Kenneth Arthur S. Subscribe to Real in the Field Goals on iTunes, and we'll be back Thursday with a new episode previewing the Baltimore Ravens and Jimmy Clausen. So, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.